Hi everyone, this is Boomer for Caravel Gaming and welcome back to Magic 2014, the Revenge campaign. Today we're going to be going up against the blue-black deck, and so let's just have a look in the deck manager, and I'll be using the Firewave deck, which for those of you who remember that far back was what Ribbo was playing when he first played this game. So let's just have a quick peek. First of all, how I built the deck. I've got 2 Grim Lavamancer. Pretty good 1-drop really. Exile 2 cards from your graveyard. Deals 2 damage to target creature or player, and it's a 1/1 for 1. I have 2 Disintegrates. Mainly because I want to be able to kill stuff with toughness 4 or greater, because we're going to be up against some of that at least. It deals X damage to target creature or player. That creature can't be regenerated, and if it would die, exile it instead. 2 Pillar of Flame, which is 1 red sorcery, deals 2 damage to target creature or player, and if a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it. A Flame Slash, which is 4 damage to target creature. A Stormblood Berserker, which is 2 mana for a 1/1, Bloodthirst 2. It can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. If this is probably one of the worst cards in the deck, just due to the fact that I don't really have that many early drops, and my opponent is playing Threads of Disloyalty in this match, so it means that low casting cost creatures are a liability. But with Stormblood Berserker and here Kiln Fiend, these are basically fast ways of dealing damage. So if he doesn't have the Threads of Disloyalty, I'm just going to run him over, I think. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets +3/+0 until end of turn. The idea is if he has a little roadblock creature in the way, you just burn it out of the way and deal 4 damage. A Searing Spear, 2 mana to deal 3 damage to target creature or player. 4 Pilgrim's Eye, because this deck still does have a heavy top end. So the 1/1 flyer for 3 that searches my library for pretty much a mountain and put it into my hand is still worth playing. 2 Chandra's Phoenix, 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer with haste. Whenever an opponent is dealt damage by a red instant or sorcery spell or by a red planeswalker, return Chandra's Phoenix from my graveyard to my hand. Pretty good. One of the best creatures in the deck. I've also put 2 Sulfuric Vortex in the deck. I am pretty much going to be the guy who's dealing damage in this matchup, so I want to be able to just get ahead on life, drop this, and then my opponent has got to struggle to try and beat me. 1 Seismic Assault. This is a little bit out of place in the deck as a 3 red enchantment. It's really just a way to throw away land in the late game. There are some decks, certainly in Modern and Legacy, which take advantage of Seismic Assault to a lot bigger degree, usually using a card called Life from the Loam, but in this deck it's just basically a way of turning late game drawn lands into damage. Flame Break is 3 red mana. It deals 3 damage to each creature without flying in each player, and creatures dealt damage this way can't be regenerated. It's not fantastic in this matchup, to be brutally honest, but it is just another way of dealing damage, and it's also another reason why I've cut a lot of the weenies from the deck. Flames of the Firebrand, otherwise known as Arc Lightning, is a 3 casting cost sorcery that deals 3 damage divided as I choose among 1, 2 or 3 target creatures or players. I've put 2 Browbeats in the deck. I'm not a huge fan of the Punisher mechanic overall, which is that any player may have Browbeat deal 5 damage to him or her to counter the spell. If no one does, I draw 3 cards. Now, I'm hoping to be ahead on damage, so Browbeat becomes useful, but often with this Punisher mechanic, what happens, of the 2 options that are presented, i.e. opponent takes 5 or draw 3, it's going to be the one you don't want to have happen that actually happens. So throughout Magic's history, this Punisher mechanic hasn't really come to light in many decks at all. Unless the card is really overpowered, which is the only one I can think of is Vexing Devil, which is a 4/3 for 1 that your opponent can counter by taking 4 damage, basically. That's about the only one which has seen any form of constructive play, just because the Punisher mechanic is such a bad thing. Giving your opponent the ability on option is usually not a good thing. Firewing Phoenix is a 4 mana 4/2 flyer, and I can return it from my graveyard to my hand for 4 mana at any time. Cyclops Gladiator, 1 red for a 4/4. Whenever it attacks, I can have it fight a creature that my opponent controls. So again, really good at beating up the weenie guys and clearing the path for my other guys. 2 Chandra's Outrage, 4 mana instant, deals 4 damage to a creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. Magma Phoenix, continuing the Phoenix theme, 3/3 for 5 flyer. When it dies, it deals 3 damage to each creature and player, and I can return it from my graveyard to hand for 5 mana. Inferno Titan, as those of you who played Standard during the Titan saga will know, this guy is pretty awesome. 6 mana for a 6/6. He casts Flames of the Firebrand when he enters the battlefield or when he attacks, and he has fire breathing as well. So this guy ends the game incredibly quickly when he comes down. Flame Blast Dragon, 6 mana for a 5/5 flyer. Whenever he attacks, you may pay X and red, and if you do, it deals X damage to target creature or player. Skagan Firebird, the final Phoenix in the deck, 6 mana 3/3 with Bloodthirst, flying, so if you deal damage to your opponent, this will come in with 3+1/+1 counters, being a 6/6 flyer, and red, return it from my graveyard to my hand, activate it only if an opponent was dealt damage this turn. And finally, I've got a Hostility in the deck as well, 6 mana 6/6, with an awful lot of text on it, but basically if I were to deal damage from a spell to my opponent, put that many 3/1 red elementals with haste in play. So if I disintegrate my opponent for 6 with this in play, I get 6 3/1 red haste guys instead. And just a quick look at the cards that we're not playing in this deck. 1 Reverberate, otherwise known as Fork. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Not really the type of deck I want to play it against. Final Fortune, 2 red. I get to take another turn after this one. At the beginning of that turn's end step, I lose the game. Again, not worth it in this really. Yeah, it's not really worth it in this deck. I'm not going to be looking for just one more turn a lot of the time. Furnace of Wrath, 4 mana. If a sorcerer deals damage to a creature or player, deals double that damage instead. Fine in theory, but your opponent gets to go first, and my opponent does have some pretty heavy hitters in his deck, so I really don't want him to be doing double damage to me. Relentless Assault gives me 2 combat phases. I think one's probably going to be enough to kill my opponent the vast majority of the time, and I don't want to top deck this. Stalking Vengeance costs 7, which is something I don't really want to be doing. Its effect is powerful, no doubt, but it's not something that I want to be looking towards. Inferno again costs 7. Not really a card I want to be casting, unless my opponent is on exactly 6. It might see play at some point. I've got a 3rd Disintegrate up here. I mean, maybe I should go down to 3 Pilgrim's Eye or something like that, but I just felt like Disintegrate was probably the weakest of the cards that I have in the deck, so it's not really worth having a 3rd one. Crimson Mage doesn't really do a huge amount, gives creatures haste, and it's a 2/1 for 2. It's okay, but I'm not really in a rush situation here. Slith Firewalker was the final cut, and the reason for that was Threads of Disloyalty. This guy becomes a pain in the backside to deal with. If you hit your opponent twice and then he gets nicked, if you don't have Searing Spear, you can be in an awful lot of trouble. He's very high risk. Spitfire's 3 mana for a 1/3. With flying, whenever an opponent is dealt non-combat damage, it gets +3/+0 until end of turn. It's not as good as Wee Dragonauts or those sort of cards, and it's 1/3 flyer for 3 is just overcosted. Fire Elemental's just a bog standard average creature, and I think I've got better than average stuff in the deck. Fire Servant, if this was 4/4, I would snap put him in the deck, but at 4/3 he's just that little bit easy to remove, and you need to untap with him in play for him to have any sort of real effect on the game. Cone of Flame, 5 mana red sorcery, deals 1 damage to a target, then 2 to another, then 3 to another. Expensive for what it does is what I'd say on that front. It's not bad, but it's expensive. Flame Wave, for those of you who are enjoying our Hearthstone videos at the moment, this is pretty much, I think it's Flame Strike, pretty much same thing. 7 mana, deal 4 to everything your opponent controls and him. Just too expensive for this deck, even though the effect's really powerful. 3 Staff for the Flame Magus. You've seen these staffs before, they are just not very good. The only way I would play them is if I was up against a red deck, potentially just to try and gain more life, but there's got to be better cards to play than that. Okay. 3 Fire Shriekers in the board, an equipment that for a total of 5 mana will give a equipped creature double strike. I think if I'm attacking with my guys, it's not a... I'm going to be winning for the most part, and this is a huge tempo loss if your guy gets killed in response. Usually for someone to pay this much mana, it has to be something like one of the swords, like Sword of Fire Ice or Sword of War and Peace, something like that. Double strike's just not enough. Goblin Arsonist, a 1/1 for 1. When it dies, it may deal 1 damage to target creature or player. It's great if you're playing the weenie strategy with this deck, but I've decided not to, so I've dumped it. Torch Fiend, my opponent doesn't have any artifacts to kill on a 2/1 for 2, is mediocre at best. Wild Guess isn't actually a bad card. Still very tempted to put this in the deck, but it's okay, but I think that overall I'm better off without it, especially as a one-off. Regathan Firecat is a 4/1 for 3, which is very mediocre. Blood Power Elemental is 5 mana for a 4/1, so that's even more mediocre. The only reason you'd play it is for this ability to deal 4 damage to a creature. It basically has the ability to sacrifice itself to Flame Slash something. It's just not that great. And finally Lavrax, which is 5 mana to deal 5 damage to a player. No, just too expensive for what it does. So let's head to the Revenge campaign, and we are going to take on Masks of the Dimir, a deck which I will definitely be playing at some point over the next few videos, because it's quite a fun deck to play. It can be a frustrating deck to play against though, because it's a deck which really attacks your resources. Mainly your hand is what it's going to attack, but it also tries to really out-tempo you in the late game. And I draw a hand with 1 land, so we're going to be shipping that back. So draw a new hand. 3 land, Berserker, Cyclops, Dragon, Titan. I think I have to ship this as well. I have absolutely no action before turn 4. Managed to draw 2 of my 3 6 drops as well, so I'm mulliganing to 6, so we've not got a good start here. That's okay, but not brilliant. So I can get blown out very easily here. So if he goes Ravenous Rat into Chittering Rats, I think I could be in major trouble. I'm not going to make this second Grim Lavamancer for the reasons that I want to keep it in hand, and having a second one isn't going to be that useful to me, just for the reason that I can't even activate the first one at this point, so there's no point putting this second one in play. I would rather have it to be able to protect my 2 removal spells that I've got here in my hand, because I certainly don't want to be discarding land at this point. And let's see what he's got for me on turn 2. It's a Dimir Guildmage. I think we saw this when we were going through the normal campaign. 2 colourless for a 2/2. Sorry, 2 of either blue or black for a 2/2, and 3 in a blue, draw a card, 3 in a black, make a player discard a card. So he can't activate it yet, but it's certainly worth killing. That's a good draw. Yeah. I mean, this also helps me get a card in the graveyard, so that my Grim Lavamancer can start getting to work as well. And really, I don't want guild mages hanging around too much. Let's see what he has on turn 3. Nothing, apparently. Okay. Browbeat, I am imagining my opponent's just going to take 5, but again, I'm not really too upset by that. If he wants to take 5, he can take 5. And yeah, he does in fact take 5. So, I like that. I now have an active Grim Lavamancer, because I have 2 cards in the graveyard, and my opponent has just 5'd himself. So, you know, it's not great. All I've done is really cheap Lava Axe my opponent. I would much have preferred to have 3 cards there, but I suppose it's okay. He casts Moroi. I think what I'm actually going to do here is just... Well, first thing I'm going to do is make Pilgrim's Eye, because I want another... I'm actually okay taking a hit or 2 from the Moroi. And again, I'm going to keep the second Lavamancer in hand to protect my Chandra's Outrage. I'm going to skip the attack here, because actually in a straight up race I'm just going to win this. His Moroi, just like it did in the normal campaign, his Moroi will actually just kill him. And he chooses not to attack, and he's in exactly the same place where the Moroi will just straight up kill him. I only have 2 cards in my graveyard, so I still don't want to... because I have Inferno Titans and Disintegrates in my deck, I am going to make the 6th land, even though there was a little bit of thought as to whether I should or shouldn't. I'm going to just skip my attack, and I'm going to let my opponent's Moroi kill him unless he does something about it. Yep, still can't attack with it. Kiln Fiend is wholly average at this point, and what makes it even worse is that it will just trade with the Moroi if I attack with it. But I'm still going to make it. And just hit continue. Skip the attack, just let my opponent's Moroi tick him down. At some point I will up the clock, but there's no need to. It's my opponent who has to attack at this point. And he mills me for 2 with Thought Scour. That's like the worst thing he could possibly do. He's just he's okay, so he's killing my Kiln Fiend? Wow, he's making just about the worst decisions he could possibly make here. And he is turning it sideways now. I'm actually just going to chump with Pilgrim's Eye. Might as well just keep doing the same old. And during his end phase, during his end step, I will shock him with my Grim Lavamancer. Now that I have a straight up full graveyard. He's got another last gasp, okay. It's like it didn't really make sense unless he did, but... Okay, let's just make our Grim Lavamancer back. Keep the mountain in hand. So you need another one there, boyo. He's going to attack for 4, that's fine, I'll just take 4. If I untap with this in play, he is dead. Ravenous Rat, so good job I kept hold of this mountain. Otherwise I'd have to fire off the Chandra's Outrage, and I really don't want to do that yet. Yep, and I'm going to untap with the Grim Lavamancer in play, so that's game over. Let Moroi take him down to 4. And then I can just Grim Lavamancer him and then Chandra's Outrage him. Okay, I'm waiting until end of turn, there's no need to do it immediately. He casts Divination to draw a couple of cards. That went straight to my turn then. Did I see an end? I honestly didn't see an end step there. But either way, I'm going to kill him now. And activate my Grim Lavamancer. Target him. And there we go. And once again, Moroi looks like it's the downfall of the House of the Dimir deck, even though it is a very powerful card. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Next time we'll be taking on the first of the Revenge Planeswalkers, Garruk. And hopefully you enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you did. And this is Boomer for Caravel Gaming, and I will see you next time.